Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
Hello and welcome back to What's on Tap podcast.
You don't have to say back. They know we're coming back every week.
I recently complained to Stefan that keep saying we're back. We are back.
We are back.
And we have a previous episode. You heard us reviewing beers from the city of Breda in Netherlands, where I went for a trip. Mm-hmm. This is the second episode that is resulting from that trip.
Yes.
Because Breda has all of those breweries that we talked about previously, but they also have a big brewery, but still a small brewery in the grand scheme of things. And it's Brewery Frontaal, who have made a big splash in Sweden, being featured prominently at Systembolaget for many releases during many years.
Yeah.
Recently, they had like a barley wine on the regular shelves. It's a big thing, Frontaal.
Yeah. So Frontaal they're really good. I've really enjoyed their beers for a long time. I had no idea they were from Breda. I knew they were from the Netherlands, but I just assumed it was probably somewhere in the northern part of the country, since that's kind of seems like to be an easy assumption. But yeah, I love Frontaal, and they did a collaboration.
We've had them on. We've reviewed one on the show.
Is it they do a collaboration? Was it brewery that they do a collaboration
or
with?
Beerbibliotheek, I think it was.
That may have been as well, but they did one they just came out as Systembolaget. It's something about the music or something. But I can't remember.
I got friends in the music industry.
Yeah. And they've had a couple of releases of that at Systembolaget, and those have been quite fun to try.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went there to their brew pub. It was actually surprisingly close to my hotel.
Oh, that's even better.
I got lost walking there because I should have. It's a classic when you know an address and you go to that address and you see there's nothing here, and you go back. And I should have just walked 20 meters ahead, and I would have seen the sign. But I got there eventually.
Yeah.
A big, nice brew pub with a lot of outdoor seating and super friendly staff.
So was it all just imperial stouts?
No.
Because when I think Frontaal, I think mostly imperial stouts.
It was mostly IPAs.
Okay.
But they had like 30 or 40 taps.
Oh, Jesus, wow.
With 7 or 8 guest beers.
Okay.
They also recently had some kind of tap takeover. But I forget. I didn't focus on. It was some kind of other brewery.
One of my favorite things is to go to a foreign market and have a tap takeover, and it's like, it's just Swedish beers.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you there are places I've been to where it's been like there's been a brewski tap takeover, or there's been a Dugas tap takeover, or like something like that, and it's like, or I think Fermentarna have been somewhere, and it was just like, well, that's unfortunate.
And they had a few Salikat. They're Norwegian, right?
Salikat, yeah.
A few Salikat beers on tap. Like I don't want to go to the Netherlands to drink Norwegian beer.
I mean, Salikat's nice. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't really say I've had a bad Salikat beer.
No.
But at the same time, you're like, but I want to drink Frontaal.
Exactly. So I went through a number of Frontaal beers. I think I had 11 beers on tap or something. One of which was a crazy beer. I just want to mention. It doesn't state Frontaal as the head brewer. It states Light Town Brewers as the head brewer. It's called Viva la Vida, and it's a beer that's collaboratively brewed to raise money for ALS research. And it actually has 87 collaborating brewers marked on Untapped. It's the craziest Untapped entry I've ever seen. Frontaal is one of them, and they were very proud because all 87 brewers had been there for the brewing session.
Now, are they all, I mean, maybe you can't tell, maybe you don't know, but are they all like
Netherlands,
Dutch brewers, or are they from different parts of, say, the region overall, like Belgian and German and whatnot?
Just by scrolling, they're all 100% Netherlands brewers.
We'll take it as that. We don't need to get a deep dive into that, but it's interesting that they all came together for that. And
exactly.
You showed me the photo, and you're like, it's like 120 people that are all hanging out together. That's pretty cool.
So that was pretty fun. I'm I almost missed it because it just had like Light Town Brewers.
Yeah.
But that was cool.
So what did you give it? Did you like it? Was it good?
I gave it a 4.
That's not bad. What's the overall rating?
It's a wheat beer, average of 3.79. So
wheat beer, 3.79 for a wheat beer for a Hefeweizen or a
wheat beer.
Just a wheat beer. Okay.
Other.
That's actually pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
that's not a style that usually gets decent ratings.
True.
And then you have so many different breweries working on it together. That could have been a real nightmare. But that's great.
So Frontaal as a brewery is nice, and their brew pub was amazing. What I did was I realized that they also sell cans, probably bottles. I didn't see any bottles.
They mostly do cans.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a bottle of Frontaal.
Maybe a long time ago, but I think most places have switched to cans these days. You don't see a lot of bottles.
Exactly. So what I did was I pulled up their Untapped entry, the brew pub, sorted by Frontaal and filtered by Frontaal and sorted by rating. And I found the 2 beers that we're going to have today.
Nice.
Those were the highest averages that I could buy and bring with me.
Perfect.
That is the way to do it, right?
Well, I mean, I do that sometimes, and sometimes I just go by name.
Yeah.
Because I love the name so much. That's how we ended up with Shitters Full from
Sudden Death.
Sudden Death, yeah.
Right.
Which was also a good double IPA, so.
It was really good. I remember it. So the first one we have is Churchill Barrelaged. So it's Churchill Barrelaged 2023 Volume 1. And it's a barrel-aged imperial stout, 10% ABV. And it says, and you made fun of this before we hit record, this barrel-aged imperial stout aged for at least 12 months on wild turkey barrels. As if we don't know.
Well, it could have been longer, could have been shorter, but we're just going to guess.
No?
It was probably at least 12 months.
Not shorter if it says at least.
Well, it means they don't really know. But they're saying, well, I mean, it was at least 12 months. I mean, come on. And then somebody's like, well, actually, it was only 9. Like, well, it was at least 12 months. Don't worry about it. But this smells really good. This smells super
really
oaky, barrel-aged.
Roasted.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this one.
Cheers.
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 That was definitely barrel-aged.
Yeah.
Woof. That's got a very dry, oaky finish. Bit of a boozy hit up front.
It definitely tastes like bourbon barrels.
Super dry finish. It might be one of the driest beers I've ever had in my life. That's insane.
It is a collab between Frontaal and Halvetamme, and they're also from Breda.
Okay.
So it's a local collab.
All right. It's really tasty though. I mean,
it's good.
I wish the bourbon barrel aging was a little more prominent because I think that it dries it out in the finish a little too much.
If you swish it around in your mouth, at least I get a lot of bourbon notes popping up. He doesn't get the same thing.
I don't get the same. I get a lot of more of the oaky tannins.
Yeah.
Through that, which isn't off-putting for me. I can see where it could also be like, oh, this is kind of bitter, like almost like a bitter chocolate powder kind of bitter to it. But overall, it's really good. Man, is it a dry finish? It is like insanely dry.
It is very dry. I am a fan. I'm ready to give a week 4.25 to this.
I'm going to give it a strong 3.75.
3.75. This is better than a 3.75. Come on, man.
The finish is just like it takes all of the liquid in my mouth. Like when I swallow it, my mouth is just like desert dry. And like there's nothing there, and all I taste is like wood tannins. It's a nice warm feeling, but at the same time, like there's nothing there once I swallow it other than just like it just is done. I mean, it is just like a hard slam the door shut kind of finish.
I feel the aftertaste just lingering forever. I think we're having very different experience of that one.
I think so too.
But that's fine.
That's fine. Agree to disagree. All right, moving forward, we have what can only be described as a spice cake beer because this thing is super.
It's called Piece of...
It's called Piece of Cake Barrel-Aged #1. It's a barrel-aged imperial stout, pastry stout, 12% ABV. And it is a true dessert when it comes to rich, indulgent stouts. Get ready to be delighted by its delicious flavors. Taken to another level with whiskey barrels. And it's not just whiskey barrels, but it's port and rye whiskey barrels.
And the port, I think, is going to be...
I have a tough time with port. Yeah. I am not a big fan of port beers. But port whiskey, I think, might work. Port on its own is, say, like red wine, barrel-aged beers. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good with that. Without that.
But it doesn't say any other ingredients.
Yeah, it doesn't smell any ingredients, but it smells like... carrot cake, kind of.
It does smell like carrot cake. It has all of the...
It's like cinnamon and ginger and... I don't know. Nutmeg. A lot of nutmeg, actually, is what it smells like.
The Untapped entry just says, barrel-aged piece of cake with spekkoek. Spekkoek? I don't know. Spekkoek.
That might be the cake.
Spekkoek. Maybe it's a... spekkoek. What? It's a food. Oh, it's a kind of cake. It's an Indonesian layer cake.
Oh, okay. So this is one of these...
From the Dutch East Indies. Wow. Right. It's a colonial cake.
So this is a cake where it's basically... So instead of having like cake layers, almost like a crepe cake. Have you ever seen one of those? Where the cake layers are just super, super thin. And then there's a bit of a jam or a marmalade or something in between to give it kind of a flavor. Yeah.
So this spekkoek, or Indonesian layer cake, has spices such as cardamom, cinnamon, clove, mace, and anise.
It's all there. That's exactly what this smells like. Cardamom is 100% up front there. Yeah.
Cheers. It has a nice lacing on the head.
Oh, this one I like. This kind of reminds me to throw back to the beers of yesteryear. I think it was called Outside the Lines, which was an Omnipola Trillium cardamom stout.
Oh, right.
Which I liked quite a bit, but apparently was not a huge fan for a lot of people. They thought it was maybe too much cardamom. But I don't like cardamom in general. I'm not a big cardamom fan, especially in desserts. I think it looks great in savory things like Indian food. Cardamom is like amazing, but Swedes use cardamom in
regular
pastries. Like, I don't know, like it's God's gift to pastries, and I'm like, it is not. It is a nightmare. But it works in beer for me for some reason, really, really well, and I love this beer.
This one is really fun.
Really
the whiskey barrel shines through. The port barrel, not at all, which I'm glad for, because we've had some clunkers when it comes to port barrels.
I think the port works really well with these really hard spice notes. Because this isn't just kind of like spice heavy. It is aggressively spice heavy.
Yes.
But not to the point where it overwhelms the beer or it becomes bitter or just a meh. Like sometimes you get these spiced beers and it just becomes like, especially at Christmas time, you get some of these really heavily cardamom, nutmeggy, clove, spice beers, and you're just like, this is perfume. But this beer just really walks that fine line up to the edge without going like over the cliff, and just brings it all together in a perfect way.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So this one's going to be strong 4.5 for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, 4.5. Yes, sure. I agree on that one.
Yeah.
I actually want to now try these side by side, but I was just reminded, my brain just reminded me that the heavy beer that Frontaal has at Systembolagets shelves and has had for a long time is the barley wine called Rhodesian Blend.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always so surprised that the Dutch would reference Rhodesia because it's the colonial name of Southeast Africa that they used to own. And it's not an uncomplicated relationship.
I'm guessing it's based off of the coffee. I think you can still buy a Rhodesian coffee.
Oh, yeah, but that's also, it's complicated.
I'm not saying, it's not. I'm not saying the Dutch and the Belgians don't have things they need to atone for.
No.
Especially in Africa. Woof. Boer War, anyone? Yikes.
That was Rhodesia.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, no one calls beers, this is French Indochina blend.
It's the Indonesian blend. Yeah.
It has problematic connotations.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
But you have convinced me. Rhodesia probably has better historical connotations than... You wouldn't call something the Boer War. It's an imperial stout.
I mean, you could. But it would be like famous, wars of history where the people that were fighting were wrong. It would be
like the British fighting the Zulus.
Exactly.
Oh, you're not on the right side of history on this one.
British Zulu Ale. German 40s Ale.
Exactly. Oh, I saw a thing on the internet. The question was, if you could time travel, where would you go? And some poor, unsuspecting girl answers, I would go to 1940s Paris. I think you have a very different view on do you mean maybe the 20s? The Roaring 20s? Maybe.
Or do you mean the... No, there's no... You mean the early 40s or the late 40s? Because the mid-40s are pretty rough. But also it's like, no. And before or after, there's no good time in the 40s. Yeah.
You're probably thinking of the 1920s, the Roaring 20s, or the 1840s.
Yeah. I would say post-World War I Germany actually is not a bad time to be in Germany.
Post-World War I?
Yeah.
No, that's a terrible place. It's inflation is crazy. Everyone is poor. They have to pay millions and millions and millions in reparations.
Well,
even for what their allies did, they have to pay. The only one who spoke against those heavy reparations was Belgian King Albert I. He said, "You're going to regret so heavily taxing the Germans for the defeat of World War I."
Yeah, I remember.
Mark my words.
Yeah.
And then he dies between the world wars, so he can't go there and say, "I told you so."
It's like, I hate to be proven right on this one, but told you so.
Exactly.
All right, we'll wrap that up here with famous horrible wars of genocide wars
Let's not
of the 20th century.
Don't let this reflect badly on Brewery Frontaal, because we like Brewery Frontaal.
Yeah, Frontaal is great, and these were two really great examples.
Especially,
I'm super glad to try them.
Especially Piece of Cake Volume 1.
Piece of Cake Volume was crazy good. Is there Volume 2, you think?
I think they're up to 4 or 5. This one was from... I think this one has a few years on its back. I'm not certain now.
Well, this is made in 2023.
That's very recently.
Yeah. Depending on how this date reads, it was either July or November. We're not really sure.
They've made 3.
Okay. This one was killer. So hopefully maybe one day we'll get lucky and try some more of these in the future.
Yes.
So you can find us online at what'sontappodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you find podcasts. You'll find us. So until next time.
Keep drinking it, dum-dums.